Well, Bri, here we are, launching Thinking Cultures. What's all this about then? How did we get here?
Oh, well, I it's been a long time in the coming. I mean, obviously stages along the way, but I guess let's go back to the very beginning. um, the very beginning actually for me probably started, yeah, not yeah, with you. Not that things hadn't weren't there in the background who I am, the sort of person and values that I have, but yeah, Thinking Cultures itself, yeah, it started with meeting you and being at that well, union conference. So that said something about us already, didn't it? What do you think?
Yeah, I keep saying to people that me and you met 30 years ago, but the absolute literal truth is it was, probably more like 35 years ago. And yeah, we met at a trade union conference down in Bournemouth. The only two young women there, the rest were all old pot-bellied men smoking loads of fags, and we just hit it off, didn't we? And I think there was always that connection of values between us, even though our lives were very different. We came from different ends of the country. You were getting ready to go off traveling. I was like a bit of a stuck in a situation, really. We had that real connection. But we didn't have Facebook in those days, or WhatsApp, or mobile phones. So when you went off traveling, I can still remember, Brian, I was working nights at an old people's home, and I can still remember when it was quiet in the night, sitting and writing letters to you and sending them post restaurant to Bangkok or whatever. And when you came back to England, life got in the way, and we didn't pick up again together until a few years later, did we? And when we found out that we'd both had kids at the same time, so that connection continued. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think, we're talking about Thinking Cultures. It's a real life story, isn't it? Because of the influences of everything that happened to us. The yeah, the life stories and what happened with our lives are just as important. So for me, going traveling and going to countries that were so different from here, and actually had a real another dimension that we kind of forgot now, just to quite a large degree in this part of the world, which is a kind of holistic view of life with, I mean, spirituality, I'm going to use that word as a kind of, absolutely sewn into, deeply baked into lives in the other cultures that I'd visited. And that just, yeah, and a real sort of, life, death, what's really important, um, having that time and space actually when I was traveling completely shaped me or unlocked me actually. And it meant that when I came back, I was definitely looking for something different. And I wanted to find ways to keep doing that here. So that's the sort of next little stage of my story. I was like, right, what now? And actually I ended up coming back and wanting to do something to help other people, help myself, help other people. And so I did a counselling skills course, which I have to say was very thinking environment in the way it was run. So yeah, that's kind of where I got back to. And then having children, everything came a bit later. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, by the time we were on that path, weren't we? And we took us different ways of getting there. And by the time we reconnected, not just as parents, but actually ultimately as single parents raising our kids, you had been on this journey, and I had begun my thinking environment training at the Centre for HIV and Sexual Health, which I did when I was pregnant with Fraser. And I think when we reconnected, I had just come to the end of completing my thinking environment consultant training with Nancy Kline, coaching consultant training with Nancy Kline. And so we just used to talk about it all the time. And we were by that stage really using those techniques to parent our kids. I mean, I did from the start with Fraser. That really sort of reflected the way in which you worked with your two, as well as, as much as we could in our work. And I think that I possibly bought you more time to think. What do you think?
Yeah, you did indeed. And it's funny though, isn't it, how life's journeys happen? Because as fascinating as it was, it still took me a while to actually come to do the training in it. And, that again was just life circumstances, all the other learning that I was doing, working in organisations, actually, getting sort of quite heavily involved in lots of different cultures, because I've worked with lots of different clients over that time. So yeah, again, very sort of different layers and perspectives that we're bringing to this, what we're bringing to thinking cultures today. So yeah, there was lots of that sort of work going on for me, which kind of, was really valuable in understanding how people work, what people don't want to do, the way cultures are set up, ones that are successful, ones that don't work so well. So yeah, it was 2014, I think, when I actually thought, right, this is it. I'm going to do the training. Everything's kind of pointing towards this now. And that is when we really got back together. What do you think?
Yeah, it was the energy, wasn't it? Because you were doing your thinking environment training in Sheffield, which is really near to where I live. So you would come up and stay with me. I think my son was still around when you were first coming up, and then it was just you and I, and we would have that time together, and we would talk and talk and talk and talk. And I don't remember us necessarily forming into a formal thinking partnership, but it was more that we modeled using those techniques in our conversations. And right back then, we had the aspiration to work together in thinking environment practice. We always wanted to do it. We nearly set up a company called Nicely Ruthless at one point. Only I kept calling it Ruthlessly Nice, which you said was something, quite different and not what we wanted at all. But we sort of knew our moment would come. And, I think in some senses, the fact that it's not been easy, that it has been a really long journey, as you say, means that we have rolled up in this thinking environment snowball so much wisdom and experience, so much learning from failure and mistakes, not necessarily using the thinking environment, though there are some of those as well, absolute bloopers, things that I just want to blush now that I got wrong when I was starting out. But it's been more that what else is there? What else is there that we can bring to this party? What have we learned about people that helps us understand and empathize when they resist? And that's why Thinking Cultures isn't just a thinking environment organization. We bring in thinking environment as a frame for all of that learning and wisdom and all of our really rich life experiences, because we've lived a life, haven't we, Bri? We really have. And what we can offer now is more rich and more precious and has more depth, because it hasn't been easy. What do you think?
Absolutely, 100% couldn't put it better. But actually, at the heart of it is this framework. And again and again and again, we come back to it. It's so rigorous, it's so disciplined, it so sums up that way that we know works between people when we relate to each other, when it's tried and tested. The approach itself is tried and tested. I don't think either of us are there thinking, oh, let's use some other techniques. It's just like, no, this is it. The thinking environment is the glue. Is it the glue? What do you think?
I think it's the lever. I'm really loving this metaphor of it as a lever for change, for systems change, for culture change, for changing organizations, communities, groups, for changing the individual. We have to do the work on ourselves in order to do the work. And the Thinking Environment has provided that framework for us to do the work on ourselves down all these years, as well as to do the work with you. So we are so excited to finally be doing it. The whole putting together of the business, the website, the ideas, everything has just been a pleasure. When we got together, sat around my kitchen island to start to throw some ideas around a few months ago, we were just continuing a conversation that we've been having for 35 years. And I'm going to ask you one final time before I start crying. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I'm so happy that we are at this place in our lives doing this, and you know what, I'm a bit tearful because it is, you know, it's you and me. What we so much believe in it, and I think between us we're so ready to welcome other people into our lives, more people actually, because there are already some fantastic people who we've worked with and I'm sure are going to come along with us. But yeah, it's absolutely the right time to open the doors and to welcome people into our community, our culture.
Wonderful stuff. You can find the whys and wherefores, the nuts and bolts, the practicalities everywhere on the website. So have a good rummage round. But we just wanted to welcome you by telling us a little bit about how we got to be here. Thanks everyone for listening.